You know that sound. You love that sound. No, these ain't wedding bells, but there'll be a marriage sometime in January. Welcome to MotorMan RudeDog. This is episode 5 for those that don't know. Welcome, Scott Morganroth and myself, Rudy Reyes. I know I love that music, don't you? Isn't it great? NFL playoffs are here. Thank you all for tuning in. This is Rudy Reyes, Scott Morganroth. Scott, thanks for coming back on the program. It's been a little bit. I'm saying I'm having some Christmas hangover from food. How's your Christmas?
Joined the club, buddy, but only I got a little bit of travel log as well. So travel jet lag, I call it travel via the automobile. But no, glad to be back on show with you, Rudy. I know we have a lot of fun doing this, and I'm glad we were able to find an episode in between the holidays. So
yeah, well, holidays are good, but holidays will be in the rearview mirror as soon as New Year's Eve decides to pick up. Speaking of picking up, we're going to pick off where this playoff run just seems to be that much more mind-boggling. And of course, mind-boggling, no bigger mind-boggle than the teams that are in the hunt right now in both the AFC, and there's only one team outside looking in. And that one team in the NFC are the Cowboys. Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, Zeke Elliott, Leighton Vander Esch is out indefinitely on an IR because of his neck. There's a lot more question marks in regards to the Cowboys and if they plan on getting into this hunt. Now, don't forget, it was a battle for the NFC East, and neither one of these teams can really pull it off, at least convincingly so. I know what Carson Wentz did, but I'm more concerned about the Cowboys and Dak Prescott moving forward. Still no contract talks. Every time that there's a conversation with Dak Prescott, it has to do with money. And whether or not Jerry Jones will give up that money is a whole other question, and whether or not they believe that moving another head coach in outside of having Jason Garrett there. Now, don't forget, this team has not been past anywhere the first round of the playoffs since 1995. So, of course, not slamming the Cowboys by any means, but they need to pick up something different here in the offseason. I know there's a lot of head coaching positions that will be opening up in the NFL, probably not as many as last year because there are a lot of first-year head coaches. But when you look at the Eagles and what they've done with Doug Peterson, it just kind of makes you wonder, do the Cowboys need that Peterson magic to get them over the hump and get them out of just being in the hunt versus being a part of this intricate wild card playoff situation this year or maybe even the years following?
Gotta believe that. Yeah, I think Jason Garrett is on those last 1 or 2 games. You summed it up. Jerry Jones is paying too much money to get nowhere. And when you consider the fact that your current head coach hasn't gotten it done in the postseason, he may not get Black Monday, or maybe he will, but he'll get a Black Day if the Cowboys don't get to the postseason. So, usually a lot of times the way things work out, Rudy, is quarterback and coach have to be on the same page. Otherwise, you have to either move on from one or the other. We've seen that drill all too many times. So Jerry Jones is getting simply impatient, and rightfully so. He's got a big billion-dollar palace, and he wants to make sure that attendance doesn't go down and that his business not suffer because of it.
Well, and I think that continues to be the case there in Jerry's world in the sense of he wants to be the general manager. I've said this on a few shows in regards to what needs to happen. And I think one of those is you take Jerry Jones out of being the general manager situation and to be that guy, to recognize that, what I'm doing is not working. What I'm trying to accomplish is not working. And it hasn't been working since 95. So let me just put that out there. And I'm sorry, Cowboys fans, that you don't want to hear this, but Dak Prescott's not worth the money that maybe he will get. Maybe. And that's a big maybe. And maybe on one day and not on any other day. So let's keep that in perspective. I don't think Dak Prescott is worth that kind of money. I understand his numbers don't indicate that, but when it comes to pressure situations and situational football, I just don't know that Dak Prescott can be that guy to get it done. They were playing catch-up almost the entire time against the Eagles. Yeah, there were good plays here and there, but there was nothing consistent and dominating by Dak Prescott to even warrant thinking going into your very last game of the regular season whether or not he's worth the money that Jerry Jones may or may not pay him during the offseason. And then the bigger question is about Jason Garrett, as you alluded to, Scott, in the sense of where's he going to go? Who's going to take his place? there's a lot of question marks surrounding this Cowboys team right now than there are answers. And unfortunately, that's going to continue being the case until Jerry Jones decides to bow out of the general manager role and let somebody else take that he trusts. The problem is that Jerry Jones is not a very trusting person in the sense of giving someone that kind of power to make the decisions when it comes draft time. So I think this. Jerry's he's still stuck in that mode.
I'll just say this, Rudy, okay? Jerry Jones will probably bow out of the general manager's job when I collect my Social Security.
Gosh, you may even be when I collect Social Security, but that'll be a little. I'm just saying a little ways away here. I'm just throwing that out there. It continues to be the case in the Dallas Cowboys system. As long as Jerry Jones is acting general manager and owner, you're going to continue getting the same type of results you've had since '95. So let's hope Jerry Jones doesn't go on a tirade or call me on my phone and telling me to cool my jets or something weird like that. So back to the guys that are in the hunt, the teams that are in the hunt, the players that are in the hunt right now, more of a hunt from a mental standpoint. When I say from a mental standpoint, a lot of these teams, even the wild card round, as good as their numbers are, Seahawks 11-4, Eagles 8-7, the Vikings are 10-5, the Saints are 12-3, the Bills are 10-5, identical record with the Texans at 10-5, the Titans are 8-7, the Chiefs are 11-4. I have a question surrounding the Chiefs, but I think more of a question surrounds this coming weekend's projected game. At least from what we know, Steelers are taking on the non-Lamar Jackson, the non-Mark Ingram, who will be sitting during this game at M&T Stadium this Sunday. This is a must-win for the Steelers team. They went into the offseason and acquired Devlin Hodges. He was cut. He started the game. Didn't do very good, and it just continues to be this roller coaster. Now, Mason Rudolph's out of the picture. Don't forget, they did sign Paxton Lynch, who's been on 3 NFL teams. One is a starter. We all know how that turned out. The second team, we all know how that turned out. And so I don't know that Paxton Lynch is a guy, but I know this much. Devlin Hodges is definitely not the guy for this role because of the lack of experience, because of the lack of... Now, I'm not going to sit here and state, I'm a diehard Steeler fan, but I'm very objective about this in the sense of Devlin Hodges is not going to be the guy in Pittsburgh moving forward except for tomorrow, which is the very last game. Why? Because Paxton Lynch, I don't think, has that winning mentality, and I think that he continues to show that he can't read defenses. He can't read his checkdowns. There's certain things and motions and his actions outside of being under center that disallows him from being a part of this contest. But one thing Mike Tomlin did say, obviously, prior to Mason Rudolph getting hurt, and that kind of changed the dynamic and perspective of the entire conversation of who's going to start moving forward for the Steelers is Devlin Hodges. Why? Because he's the only viable quarterback that the Steelers have. Now, for the record, and I said this yesterday, Ben Roethlisberger went on Twitter stating that he will be back next year. This isn't fake news. This isn't something I just made up in my basement or in my kitchen sink. Ben Roethlisberger will be back for next year, and he's going to contend for another Lombardi. Now, having Ben Roethlisberger is one thing. Not having him is why the Steelers are 8-7. Not the main reason, but one key reason. One of the few, I should say. Defensively, T.J. Watt named most valuable player for the Steelers within the organization. He's had a ton of tackles for loss. He's had sacks, forced fumbles, interceptions. The guy's been all over the place, and deservedly so for T.J. Watt. Now, his brother, as everybody should already know, has already made a bid to start for the Texans. He did have a pectoral tear that kept him out for the majority of the season this year. And as far as a rotation for somebody like J.J. Watt, how careful are the Texans going to be as they take on the Bills?
I would give the Texans maybe one win at the most. I don't think they've got enough firepower in terms of, getting through a team like the Ravens. Granted, I think they beat them. I think they played each other this year, right? These two teams. So, if not, they're going to get humble pie if all roads lead through Baltimore. There's no way. I'd give the Texans one win in the playoffs at the most. But for a team that, traded away Damian Clowney, that nobody really gave him a whole lot to work with, that's a pretty good year for Houston.
I think it's a really good year for Houston. If for some reason they can get him back, and I don't mean limit his time based on giving him so many minutes. I think based on his physicality and where he is on the field. Is he able to put the swim move together? Is his power move going to be enough? And is he going to feel worn out? You have to look at all these signs, and I don't think any of these signs indicate that he's going to be playing a whole lot. But I think when it comes to pressure downs, when it comes to goal line stances, you need all the bodies possible. And I think you're going to see a lot more J.J. Watt in regards to third and goal, fourth and goal, situational football like that. So I like the fact that he's coming back. Probably one of those giving characters that you're going to find in the NFL landscape today because of what happened last year or the year before that. So he's very focused, but he comes from a long line of giving people. T.J. Watt is no exception. His younger brother, who does a lot in the Pittsburgh community, and for all things, for all intents and purposes, he's the guy. I mean, he really is. He's the guy. He's a leader on that Steelers defense. T.J. Watt certainly the Steelers are going to need him massively. Let's talk a little bit more about this matchup because I want to kind of pull this into perspective. You're not going to see Lamar Jackson, as I mentioned earlier. You're not going to see Mark Ingram. Both guys will be sitting out. Are we going to see this RG3 magic, or is this going to be? I know we talked about Fitz tragic, and I know we talk about Fitz magic, and I understand all these nuances. Are we going to see a lot of RG3 and what he used to bring when he was with the Redskins? Does he bring it to Baltimore this weekend?
You know what? I'll say yes. I really will. This is an opportunity for this guy, Rudy, to go out there and audition for a lot of teams that he's deserving of another shot. So there'll be a degree of hunger inside of RG3. I'll go ahead and say yes.
I think so too. I've always enjoyed his style of play, but don't forget being the guy on the road, and I mean on the road because he used his wheels in Washington. He got hit a lot. There were a lot of concussions. There were a lot of questions surrounding his ability to keep that ongoing fluidity outside of being under center, fluid outside of the pocket, not getting hit, not taking those hits. So that remains to be seen. This Steelers team is really hungry right now, and this is a must-win for them. But the Steelers need other teams to lose in order for them to even have a chance, just like last year. Here we go, repetitive method, what happened last year. Let's kind of switch gears here, but we're going to stay in the AFC because – and we were talking about this offline, and we were trying to have a podcast that didn't quite work out, but I had stated that in order for the Jacksonville Jaguars to do anything at all, anything, they need to get rid of Tom Coughlin, and they need to get rid of their head coach. Now, they did one of two things. They got rid of Tom Coughlin, which is probably the best thing they could have done. And my belief is, and I don't know this for a fact, I don't know the organization, I've interviewed very few players from the Jaguars during my time, but I know this much, that for some reason, somehow, some way, all these NFLPA grievances that these Jaguar players were filing was because of Tom Coughlin. Is that going too far?
No, not at all. I think as I am more closer to the situation, we were out in Atlanta last weekend for the Falcons and the Jaguars game, and the reality is that with or without Tom Coughlin, Rudy, the Jaguars fell behind early, and Doug Marrone never recovered. The team did not look very good. So I don't care what anybody says about the hangover. And now all week long, Doug Marrone is apologizing to his fan base about the year that he had. You can't show any kind of vulnerability like that and look totally stupid. This guy looks like a beaten man is what he does. The general manager in flux. The only chance they have is that Shad Khan is loyal. Maybe Tom Coughlin was too hands-on. What do these two guys do going forward? Will that energize the fan base? Thought that bringing Blake Bortles, getting rid of him would do it, bringing in Nick Foles. The only thing that happened there with Blake Bortles is not the scapegoat anymore. Nick Foles wasn't the hero, and Gardner Minshew got some valuable playing time, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are out of the playoffs. Go figure.
Well, I mean, you have to look at your front office, and of course, Khan did. I think he did the right thing. I think he went about everything that he has done so far for the benefit of the franchise. And I'm sorry, Tom Coughlin, but it just wasn't the system for him. He may have thought it was, and of course Khan did at one time, otherwise he would have never hired him. But I think when you look at the situation overall, Tom Coughlin, I just don't know. I mean, he has time in the NFL, don't get me wrong. He's already won Super Bowl